Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Startup Central, and let's now put the spotlight on identity security startup Veza. The company has secured a $108 million Series D investment that's led by New Enterprise Associates. That's bringing its total funding to $235 million. Veza is now aiming to scale globally, sharpen its product roadmap, and double down on regulatory compliance. As identity and access governance become central to enterprise security, we are going to be speaking with Tarun Thakur, who's the co-founder and CEO at Veza, about their growth trajectory, unique market positioning, and how they plan to navigate the increasingly complex world of identity security. Thank you very much, Tarun, for joining us here on ET Now this evening. First things first, let's speak about the funding, the recent fundraise that you've managed. What's the investor participation been like, and how are you looking at deploying this fund?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Tarun, one of the co-founders and CEO of Veza. With this announcement, we are announcing $108 million in our Series D financing. The company is based out here in Silicon Valley, California, and our investment round was led by NEA, one of the top 10 venture capital firms in the world. Along with our new investors with NEA, we also invited 3 new strategic investors, Snowflake Ventures, Atlassian Ventures, and Workday Ventures. And along with that, we had a very, very strong participation from all our existing ventures, including Excel, Google Ventures, and so on and so forth.
All right, Tarun, thank you for that broad perspective on who your investors are and what does the company do. But give us more details on how is the company looking at deploying this capital?
Absolutely. Look, the reason behind this investment round is it's become very clear, that identity is the battleground of cybersecurity. Identity is eating security. We believe the biggest and the largest threats in cyber, whether it to be due to breaches or regulations, is all related with identity. And we've come to this conclusion after a lot of hard work that there is an opportunity to go help organizations across the world on their journey to secure access to data. So we want to take this opportunity of this financing to really invest in 3 core areas. Number one, we want to go invest in product and innovation and engineering and R&D, because at the end of the day, the world of technology changes very, very fast. So we want to keep our leverage when it comes to growing the innovation. Number two, we want to build our go-to-market teams across the world, whether it be US, whether it be EMEA, whether it be APJ with India and Japan and Singapore. And the third is, we will only be successful if we invest in human capital, hiring engineers, hiring salespeople, hiring the teams, and to be able to scale the company very rapidly. We are planning to add 40 to 50 people per quarter, if not per month, to be able to work with customers and organizations worldwide.
Right, Tarun, now let me ask you about, the overall competitive landscape. Now, Veza operates in a highly competitive cybersecurity space. So how does your platform uniquely position itself when it comes to identity for security and access governance?
Absolutely. A really good question. Look, we believe if you look at the world of cyber, over the last 2 decades, maybe 3 decades, we have solved lots of critical problems. Whether it is securing network, whether it is securing endpoint, whether it is securing your front door. What we came to this realization, early 2020, is when it comes to probably the biggest critical factor in organizations and their journey to zero trust, the biggest problem that has not been solved is about principle of least privilege, which essentially means who's John and what can he delete in Snowflake? Or who's John and what can he delete in Salesforce? Why can't we answer that question in our fingertips, like Google search? Who's John and what does he has access to? And so, our differentiation in the world of cyber is one, and probably the most important one, the intuition that what we have thought about identity as directory services does not actually define access.
Right, Tarun. Tarun, so with growing regulatory requirements and compliance challenges, how does Veza support organizations in staying audit ready and managing access risks effectively?
Excellent question. Look, we believe, as you noted, um, the regulatory and the compliance standards are only getting even more stricter, and for the right reasons, right? Data is everywhere, data is moving to the cloud, and to be able to secure access to the data, we need the right guardrails and the guidance in line for organizations to operate. And one of the most critical business process, most critical business need for securing access is rooted in who's joining an organization, who's moving in an organization. Somebody moves from finance to marketing, who's leaving an organization. A person has access to 20 systems. Should he still have that access to 20 systems after being 6 months in a job or after being 6 years in a job? And number three is, I need access to something. Let's say I need access to a Tableau, or I need an access to an Oracle database. If I need access to something, can I get access in a most least privileged manner? Meaning, I get access to something I need, which is called just in time, and then my access goes away. So when it comes to regulations and standards, it brings forth very standard business processes and business practices, whether it be joining and leaving or moving, or whether it be certifying the access of somebody, or whether it may be I simply need to request access to something. All those three processes have to be designed from the ground up, which are rooted in least privilege, not in IT tickets of ServiceNow.
Right, and that's essentially what you're taking up with respect to your clients. But where do you see yourself in the next 3 to 5 years? What's the growth outlook you have? And will you be looking at more fundraising, given that the cybersecurity landscape and identity security landscape is changing so fast, and especially with the onset of AI?
Absolutely. Look, we have an ambition to go build a long-lasting, iconic company. So a company that can probably go beyond a founder lifetime. And that takes 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Those things don't happen in 5 years. And so, we expect, cannot predict the future, but we would like to take the company through a big public event by the end of this decade, which is the next 5 years. In terms of your question of financing and funding the company, obvious, we're building an enterprise company. We're building an iconic company. We're building a long-lasting company. To be able to build such an enterprise, you need to be all over the world. You need to be in every geography. To be able to build an enterprise organization like Veza in every big geography, you need a lot of financing to help you build those things. So we'll absolutely be raising, further fundraising over the next 24, 36 months to really fuel innovation, go to market, and customers.
All right. And Tarun, can you tell us about the company's financials in terms of whether the company is profitable or not? If it's not profitable, then by when do you expect the company to be profitable, and what's the growth guidance that you have?
We are growing the business between 2.5x year over year. We have about 150 customers, about many of those Fortune 100, Fortune 500, the largest, biggest bank in the world, to the largest, biggest pharmaceutical in the world, Eli Lilly, organizations like Snowflake, CrowdStrike, Intuit, Blackstone. These are KKR. These are very, very large customer of ours. And we expect the company and the business to grow, doubling the business every year for the next 4 months.
Right. Right. All right. Thank you very much on that note, Tarun, for joining us on ET now and sharing about the growth path that the company is looking at. You, of course, are looking at more funding in the next few months. Well, congratulations to you on the recent funding and all the very best for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's now look at this final story before we close the show, and that's related to OpenAI and the big question around whether OpenAI will remain a non-profit company or will the company's structure be made to change. Well, that's been one question that's been going around for quite some time now, and now reports suggest that OpenAI has decided to preserve its original governance under a non-profit board, shelving plans to become a fully conventional for-profit company. The move follows mounting criticism and legal pressure from co-founder Elon Musk, former staff, and regulators concerned about the erosion of OpenAI's mission to develop AI for public good. While the company will restructure its for-profit arm as a public benefit corporation, the non-profit will retain governing control, which aims to strike a balance between attracting investments and safeguarding its founding values. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time's up from us right here on Startup Central. Hope you like